Hi everyone, and welcome to Medicspot's guest talk, Blood Sugar Balancing and Food Language with me, Suzanne Laurie. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll explore science-based strategies for stabilizing your blood glucose and examine how the words we choose around eating can either support or undermine our best intentions, especially for those using GLP-1 medications as part of their weight management journey. This is part 3 of a 3-part series of talks I've done for Medicspot on emotional eating, and it's linked to weight gain, so please feel free to check out the other 2 on this channel. I'm Suzanne Laurie, a midlife coach, nutritional therapist, and positive psychology practitioner, and a specialist in emotional and binge eating disorders. I've spent over 20 years working with clients to transform rigid eating patterns into balanced, sustainable habits. If you'd like to follow future tips, I'm on Instagram and my handle is motherflushingmidlife. Before we begin, though, please note that the perspectives and recommendations I share today derive from my clinical experience, training, and personal research. I'm not a medical doctor. This presentation is intended to complement, not replace, professional medical advice. So always consult your GP or qualified healthcare professional before altering medications, GLP-1 regimens, or major dietary practices. The core purpose of this talk is to help you understand why blood sugar stability matters for sustained energy, for mood regulation, and appetite control, and to explore how common food language phrases can unwittingly perpetuate guilt, restriction, and then binge eating. And I want to introduce practical, non-restrictive tools, such as 3 simple dietary shifts that support balanced blood sugar and reduce emotional eating. And most importantly, to equip you with strategies you can adopt immediately, regardless of where you are on your eating journey. So why does blood sugar balance matter? Stable blood glucose is the cornerstone of metabolic and psychological well-being. When levels surge and collapse, we can experience cravings, fatigue, and irritability that contribute to impulsive and emotional eating. Our aim is to reduce those peaks and troughs through consistent nutrition, so you give yourself more space to deal with some of the trickier emotional and psychological drivers of emotional and binge eating. GLP-1 agonists suppress hunger signals. However, they don't teach our bodies how to regulate their own glucose rhythms and hunger and fullness cues. So if you skip meals or underfuel because of medication-induced appetite suppression, you may face heightened cravings and overeating when your medication effects reduce or when you start coming off them. So the goal is to complement pharmacology with sound eating patterns before this can happen, to set yourself up for long-term success. So let's look at the blood sugar roller coaster. In this graphic, we can see the classic roller coaster that can occur after a meal or snack composed of mostly fast-releasing carbohydrates. A fast carbohydrate meal triggers a rapid glycemic spike, so a rapid blood sugar spike, followed by an insulin surge. That's the hormone that drives glucose into cells or into storage. And soon after, blood sugar dips below baseline, activating cortisol release and compelling us to seek quick energy sources. Over time, this relentless cycle compromises mood, body composition, and self-confidence. It's also the precursor to many chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, chronic inflammation, obesity, and even dementia. So what are the signs of dysregulation? There are many signs of blood sugar dysregulation. Some common but often unrecognized indicators include lack of appetite in the morning following maybe late night grazing, nocturnal awakening, especially around 3 a.m., maybe mid-morning or mid-afternoon energy crashes and hangry sensations, drowsiness or brain fog after eating, particularly after bigger meals, and maybe sudden intense cravings for sweet or salty snacks. Recognizing and addressing these cues can allow us to adjust eating frequency and composition before a full relapse into binge restrict patterns occur. So what is that restrict binge pattern? What does that look like? Here we can see a really common cycle that many people trying to lose weight inadvertently get into. When we impose strict rules like long fasts, rigid calorie limits, our psychology and physiology retaliates with primal hunger. That, coupled with self-reproach, sets the stage for overeating and binging because we simply can't maintain the restriction, and our body and mind work together to get us to eat. Relating directly to blood sugar levels, low blood sugar will prompt the body to crave carbohydrates, often leading to poor food choices and overeating. This feeds us back into the cycle as we then feel guilty and go back to what we know, which is restriction. Understanding this cycle as a natural response to our bodies being undernourished, either with not enough food per se, or not enough high nutrient foods, empowers us to build more compassionate and sustainable eating frameworks that support, not work against, our hunger and fullness cues. So let's turn theory into practice now. We're going to explore 3 fundamental shifts that form a robust foundation for metabolic balance and psychological ease. And I call these the 3 simple shifts. And these are simple guiding principles that can help keep blood sugar levels more stable throughout the day. So first, regular food intake is incredibly important. Ideally, 3 balanced meals plus 2 snacks at no more than 3 or 4 hour intervals. Secondly, macronutrient pairing. So always combining carbohydrate sources with protein and or healthy fats. And then slow release carbohydrates, prioritizing fiber-rich, minimally processed foods over refined sugars. We're going to cover these 3 shifts in a little more detail now over the next 3 slides. So shift 1 then, consistent eating rhythm. Eating every 3 or 4 hours prevents drastic blood sugar fluctuations. So some of my clients who have got used to long gaps between food find it helpful to schedule maybe gentle reminders on their phones or diaries, and to have snack stations prepared in advance so they've got something really easy and simple to pick up. It can be small, it doesn't matter. But a simple daily plan might look like an 8 a.m. breakfast, maybe a small snack at 11 a.m., 1 p.m. lunch, another snack at about 4-ish, and then a 7 p.m. dinner. And this pattern nurtures balance and wards off the desperate hunger that tends to precipitate overeating. So even if you're on GLP-1 meds and they're reducing your appetite, it can be a good idea to consume a small amount of food rather than nothing at all. So shift 2 then, pairing protein and healthy fats. Including protein and a source of essential fats at every carbohydrate containing meal slows gastric emptying. So it slows the speed that food comes out of the stomach, and it reduces post-meal glucose surges. So the speed that glucose goes into the bloodstream. And this might look like porridge topped with Greek yogurt and seeds, or a slice of whole grain toast with avocado and boiled egg, even a few nuts with some chocolate if that's what you fancy, or some hummus with some tortilla chips rather than just having crisps. These small but deliberate additions of protein and fat can transform your carb choices into sustained, satiating nutrition without you restricting yourself. And then shift 3, choose fiber-rich carbohydrates. So refined grains and sugars spike glucose very quickly, whereas something that is fiber-dense releases energy more gradually, while also feeding your gut microbiome, which are the good bacteria in your gut that keep us healthy. So it's a win-win. Simple swaps such as white pasta and rice for whole grain alternatives or quinoa, maybe white bread for rye or a seeded whole grain bread, can markedly improve satiety, and mood. If this is a push, then start going half and half first. Have half white pasta with half whole grain until you get used to that texture and flavor. Same with rice. But I encourage you to pick one habitual refined carbohydrate that you eat this week and experiment. Switch it for a slow release alternative or go half and half. See how you feel. So to make these concepts more tangible then, here are some simple meal and snack suggestions. There are many more, but here are a few easy ones. So breakfast might look like an omelette with spinach, or porridge with mixed berries and nuts, or peanut butter on toast with some banana on top. You might snack on Greek yogurt with seeds, or fruit and a handful of almonds, maybe oat cakes topped with hummus, or crudités with hummus, whatever you fancy. And lunch and dinners, stir fries are a great option with some brown rice, lentil or chickpea-based soups. Tray bakes are super easy with lots of root vegetables and some lean protein, like maybe some chicken, or you could put some salmon in there. Can be delicious, colourful, and great for blood sugar balancing. So choose what appeals to you and what aligns to your schedule. Don't make it hard. What's most important is that whatever you choose is satisfying, even if every component of a meal or snack is not 100% nourishing. It doesn't matter. It's what's happening as a whole. Because then you're much more likely to eat a smaller amount and not overeat or binge later. So let's move on to food language now. Food is fuel. It is not a moral judgment. So whilst it's great to follow the guidelines on the previous slide, it's also important not to turn that into another food rule and moral labels around your food choices, such as, oh, I'm being really good here, or the alternative, I've been really bad. Because this language cultivates shame and black and white thinking around food. We must remember that nourishment, pleasure, and comfort are all legitimate aspects of eating. Some emotional eating is okay. It's when it gets out of control that it can become problematic. None of our choices make us virtuous or unworthy as human beings. Fact, food is food. And remembering that can help dial down the power that it sometimes holds over us. So how does language shape our behavior? When we term something a treat, we elevate its desirability. And when we call foods cheat meals, we imply transgression. So these phrases intensify cravings and set up a punish-reward dynamic that is inherently unsustainable. So instead, neutral language removes any moral stakes and fosters a more relaxed and balanced relationship with food. We also tend to use all or nothing phrases around food, such as, I've ruined it now, I might as well just keep going, or I'm never going to eat that again. How often have you said that? It exemplifies this all or nothing thinking that moves us between restriction and binging and back again constantly. They amplify stress, they erode self-efficacy, and they precipitate the binges that we're absolutely trying to avoid. So the antidote lies in recognizing that these thought patterns, as they arise, are not helpful, and pausing to choose a more balanced perspective. And that comes in the form of neutral and empowering language. So try reframing something like cheat day to occasional foods, and naughty to maybe sometime foods, and guilt-free to satisfying or nourishing. Remind yourself that no single meal or snack defines how you eat. It's a moment, and that you can enjoy a wide variety of foods. Everything is available. It's about how you eat them together. Such language shifts, although they're subtle, can profoundly alter your emotional response to eating. So give it a try. So as we conclude today, I want you to identify one principle that you can practice this week. Have a pause and reflect. Perhaps the snack reminder, maybe it's the carbohydrate swap, or a neutral language shift, whatever it is. Maybe consider tracking your hunger cues and noting the words you use in a brief journal. These small, consistent actions can really yield the greatest long-term results, and that is what you're after. So I want to give you some useful resources here. If you'd like to do some further reading, I recommend some of the following books. There are many others, but these are just ones that my clients have found useful. So the Glucose Goddess method contains a lot of practical blood sugar balancing tips that aren't about restriction and taking lots of foods out of the diet. It's very much about how you eat foods, combinations of foods, timing of meals, as opposed to taking things out. Forking Wellness is all about a non-diet balanced nutrition approach to eating and moving towards more mindful and intuitive eating. And the Full Diet is by an endocrinologist who integrates endocrine science with behavioral change. So it's a really nice holistic way of looking at physiology and psychology together. If this presentation has resonated with you, then Medicspot offers additional behavioral change programs, weekly coach check-ins, motivational emails, and a supportive WhatsApp community. And remember, this is part 3 of a 3-part series of free talks around emotional eating, covering physical and emotional triggers. So feel free to check out the other 2 on this channel. Thank you so much for your attention today. I hope you leave feeling more empowered with both some science-backed strategies and compassionate language tools to support your GLP-1 journey. Wishing you steady progress and greater ease with every meal. Thanks so much again.